Her boss offered her a promotion, but the price? One night with him. Watch till the end and subscribe for more real stories. Amara had always been the kind of woman who fought her way through life with clenched teeth and trembling hope. She grew up in a tiny apartment in Ojuelegba, raised by a mother who stretched every naira like magic. By the time she graduated from university, Amara carried the lifelong pressure of being the one who must make it. Her boyfriend, Daniel, saw that weight too. He loved her ambition, her spark, her stubborn refusal to let poverty define her. They had big dreams: marriage, a home of their own, maybe 2 kids who would never know the hunger they grew up with. But as years passed and jobs refused to come, their dreams bent under the wind of reality. Then came the job at Lexar Holdings, one of the most respected corporate firms in Lagos. Amara walked into the office on her first day with shaky hands, but a grateful heart. The salary wasn't much, but it was a start. It was something to build on. And then she met him. Mr. Adewale Lawson, CEO, mid-40s, polished, charismatic in a cold sort of way. The kind of man who didn't need to raise his voice to control the room. He noticed Amara immediately. Not because she was the most beautiful woman in the office, though she was striking, but because she had what he called the hunger to rise. 2 months into the job, the pressure hit her like a hammer. Her mother fell ill, hospital bills piled up, Daniel had lost his job again, rent was due, everything seemed to collapse at the same time, like life had decided to test her limits. Then, during a late evening at work, Mr. Lawson approached her. "You're hardworking, Amara," he said, leaning against her desk. "But hard work alone doesn't open doors. Connections do. Opportunities do." She swallowed. "Sir, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I just need a chance." He watched her for a long moment, a too long moment. Then he said it. "There's an executive retreat this weekend, private, exclusive. If you come with me, I can guarantee your promotion and a bonus substantial enough to handle personal responsibilities." He knew what he meant. He didn't hide it. The room felt suddenly smaller, the air colder. Her heart raced, not because she wanted this, but because she knew the storm waiting outside her life had no mercy. Bills were drowning her. Her mother needed surgery. Daniel was already overwhelmed. She felt like she was being squeezed between morality and survival. That night, she sat in her room staring at the ceiling. She thought of integrity, loyalty, love. She thought of the promises she and Daniel made. But she also thought of her mother lying in a hospital bed. She thought of poverty, that loyalty-killing monster. By midnight, she made the decision that would scar her life forever. She went. The retreat was everything she expected it to be. Lavish, private, decorated with wealth she had only seen in movies. She told herself it was for her mother, for survival, for a better future. She convinced herself that one night wouldn't destroy her. But guilt has a long memory. Mr. Lawson kept his promise. She returned to work with a new title and a bank account that finally breathed. But every time Daniel smiled at her, every time he held her hand, every time he spoke about their future, something in her chest twisted painfully. She thought the mistake would fade. She thought the money would calm the guilt. She was wrong. Daniel noticed the change immediately, not because she told him anything, but because guilt rarely hides completely. Amara was suddenly distant, quiet. She avoided eye contact, avoided long hugs, avoided conversations about the weekend she claimed she spent helping a friend study for professional exams. She kept her phone face down. She showered the moment she got home. She flinched whenever Daniel asked, "Are you okay?" But Daniel, being the man who trusted too easily, chalked it up to work stress. Still, cracked grew. He noticed the sudden flow of money. He noticed she paid the bills without hesitation. He noticed the new phone she said she won in a raffle. He noticed how she stopped complaining about work. One night, he asked gently, "Babe, talk to me. I feel like you're here but not here." She forced a smile. "It's nothing, just long days." But inside, she felt herself crumbling. She hated lying. She hated the secret wrapping itself tighter around her soul. At work, Mr. Lawson acted like nothing happened. He didn't text her, didn't call, didn't ask for anything more. And for a moment, that made it worse. It made the guilt feel stupid, like she had destroyed herself for something he didn't even value beyond the moment. Weeks passed. She tried to wash the night out of her mind with work, with silence, with avoidance. But the consequence of moral compromise is that it doesn't only show up in actions, it shows up in who you become. She became irritable, snappy, easily overwhelmed. Daniel stood by her, patient and loving, but he saw the confusion in his eyes. One morning, as she prepared for work, he wrapped his arms around her and whispered, "I miss you." She froze. You can't miss someone who hasn't gone anywhere geographically, but Daniel knew she was slipping away emotionally. That simple sentence broke her. She wanted to tell him everything. She wanted to confess, fall on the floor, and beg for forgiveness. But fear sealed her throat. Fear of losing him, fear of losing the life they planned, fear of confirming that she had allowed desperation to reshape her into someone she didn't recognize. And so she said nothing. But silence has its own voice. Daniel began to distance himself too, not intentionally, but out of self-defense. When someone you love becomes a stranger, your heart builds walls it didn't ask for. Amara could feel him drifting, and the irony was painful. The very act she committed to save their future was now poisoning it. One Friday night, after a small argument over dinner, Daniel exhaled deeply and said, "Amara, did I do something wrong? Are you upset with me?" She shook her head quickly. "No, not at all." "Then why do I feel like you're hiding something from me?" Her spoon froze mid-air. Hiding something. The truth set like lead in her stomach. She couldn't answer. She simply stood up, walked into the bathroom, and cried silently into a towel. She thought secrets could be buried. She thought silence protected the people you love. Instead, she learned a brutal truth. Secrets don't stay quiet. They echo. In tone, in distance, in the emotional space between two people who once walked in sync. And slowly, heartbreak began to grow where love used to live. For months, Amara lived like someone carrying fire in their chest, burning, hiding, pretending. She tried to convince herself that time would dilute the guilt, that if she just worked harder, loved Daniel harder, prayed harder, the memory of that night would shrink until it no longer mattered. But guilt is patient. It waits, and when it returns, it comes with interest. By the 4th month after the retreat, Daniel's distance had become noticeable. Not deliberate, not cruel, but just human. A man trying to protect his heart from a love that felt like it was slipping through his fingers. He still held Amara, still kissed her forehead, still cooked for her on weekends. But there was a hesitancy in his eyes, a question he was too afraid to ask. But the biggest storm wasn't at home. It came from work. One Thursday morning, the HR department circulated a memo. All staff are required to update their performance review logs and submit supervisor endorsements. It was routine, mechanical, procedural, but one thing changed everything. For promotions and bonuses, supervisors had to provide written justifications. When Amara saw her file, her blood turned cold. Under the section titled Reason for Promotion, Mr. Adiwale Lawson had written, "Private project collaboration during weekend executive retreat. Delivered exceptional support." The wording wasn't explicit, but it wasn't innocent either. Anyone who read it with suspicious eyes would interpret it exactly the way it happened. Worse still,
HR had the right to ask clarifying questions. Amara felt the room spin. Her hands went numb. That retreat, the one she thought was buried, was now documented in a corporate file. That afternoon, when she went to Mr. Lawson's office to ask why he wrote such a reckless statement, he didn't even pretend to misunderstand. "Relax," he said calmly, sipping his tea. "The HR department won't dig into it. They know better. And no one will question me." "But why write it at all?" she asked, voice shaking. He smiled, and that smile held arrogance she hadn't seen before. "To protect myself. And you, indirectly. If audits ever come up, I need to show justification for the promotion. You benefited, I benefited. Let's not rewrite history." Amara stared at him, really stared at him, and for the first time, she saw the truth.
She was never special, never valued, never respected. She was a transaction, a woman who traded a night for a temporary financial lifeline, a lifeline now twisted into a noose. That evening, she returned home, shaken, quiet, and terrified. She planned to hide it from Daniel, like she hid everything else. But stress has a way of revealing cracks in even the strongest facade. Daniel was waiting for her in the living room. He was holding something, a printout, a document. Her heart stopped. "Babe?" His voice was soft, too soft. "Can we talk?" Her breath caught. "What's wrong?" He handed her the paper. It was a copy of her HR performance review. Someone, maybe a colleague, maybe someone trying to stir office rumors, had anonymously slipped it under the door of their apartment building. Daniel found it while checking the mail. "Amara," he whispered, his voice trembling. "Please tell me this isn't what it sounds like." Silence. Dense. Suffocating. She opened her mouth to explain, but no explanation could undo the reality on the page. Her lips trembled, tears blurred her vision. "Daniel, I can explain." "When?" he cut in gently. "When were you planning to explain? Before we get married? After? Or never?" She broke. Everything she had run from, everything she had buried, erupted to the surface. She fell to her knees, sobbing, her voice cracking under the weight of a truth too heavy to carry anymore. "I didn't want to lose you. I didn't want poverty to take my family. I didn't want to choose between my mother's life and my dignity. I didn't know what else to do." Daniel sank into a chair, hands on his head, breathing hard. The hurt in his eyes wasn't anger. It was heartbreak. Deep, soul-level heartbreak. "You should have told me," he whispered. "We could have found a way. We always found a way." "I was scared," she said. "I thought if I told you, you'd see me differently, that you'd hate me." "Hate you?" He looked up, tears in his eyes. "Amara, I loved you more than anything. I planned my whole life with you. But you didn't trust me enough to struggle with me. Instead, you struggled alone, and you let another man step into a place that was meant to be ours." His voice cracked. "That's what hurts. Not even what you did, but that you faced your darkest moment without me." Amara sobbed uncontrollably. "Please, don't leave me," she whispered. Daniel didn't answer. He simply sat there, staring at the floor, breathing like a man trying to keep himself from breaking apart completely. Minutes passed. Maybe an hour. Finally, he stood up slowly. "I need time," he said softly. "Time to breathe, time to think, time to understand what we are now and what we can still be." He walked out quietly, not slamming the door, not shouting, just leaving, with a silence that felt louder than 1,000 screams. The moment the door closed, Amara collapsed fully to the floor. The night she thought she could outrun had finally caught her, and everything she tried to protect was now hanging by a thread.
Daniel stayed away for 3 days. 3 excruciating days, filled with silence, unanswered texts, unanswered calls, and the echo of everything she feared. She didn't sleep. She didn't eat. She simply sat on the floor every night, hugging her knees, rereading old photos of them together, the ones where her smile was real and her conscience was clear. On the 4th morning, she forced herself to go to work. She couldn't bear to sit alone with her thoughts anymore. But when she walked into the office, everything felt wrong. Conversations stopped when she entered. Some people exchanged glances. One lady whispered sharply and then looked away as if she was ashamed of even looking at her. Rumors had begun. Someone in HR had leaked the performance review justification. People interpreted it exactly how she feared. Amara had slept her way to the top. The truth was worse. She had slept her way to survival. But people didn't care about motives. They cared about scandal. At 10 a.m., HR summoned her. She walked into a cold room with 2 managers, a legal officer, and a table full of documents. They asked questions that stabbed like needles. Did you participate in an unauthorized private retreat? Did you engage in a non-professional relationship with your supervisor? Were you coerced in any way? Did you report the inappropriate circumstances? Each question broke her a little more. She couldn't defend herself without admitting the truth. She couldn't lie without inviting more trouble. And she definitely couldn't implicate Mr. Lawson without consequences far beyond her control. By noon, she was placed on administrative suspension pending further review. She packed her things in silence, avoiding the eyes that followed her like judgmental shadows. Outside the building, she broke down on the steps, sobbing into her hands. Everything was falling apart at once. Her relationship, her reputation, her job. The very sacrifice she made to save her family had become the blade slicing her life open. That evening, Daniel finally returned home. He entered quietly, his footsteps soft, his face tired. Not angry, just devastated. Seeing him, Amara ran into his arms, clinging to him like her last lifeline. He didn't push her away, he held her, but it wasn't the same. His embrace used to feel like home. Now it felt like a farewell waiting to happen. "I went to your office today," he said gently. Her heart froze. You did?" "I needed to understand everything. I needed truth, not rumors." She stepped back slowly. "And what did they tell you?" "That you're suspended, that there's an investigation, that the company suspects misconduct but hasn't reached a conclusion." He sighed. "I defended you. I told them you're not that kind of person, but, Amara, they showed me the memo Mr. Lawson wrote." She closed her eyes. "Daniel, I'm sorry." "I know. But sorry doesn't reverse actions. Sorry doesn't undo what happened. Sorry doesn't rebuild trust." She sank into the couch, shaking. "What do you want me to do?" He sat across from her, elbows on his knees. "I want to stay. I want to fight for us. But I need time. And you need help. Emotional help. You're carrying too much guilt alone." Her eyes widened. "Are you saying we should end things?" "No." He shook his head. "I'm saying we need space. Not to break up, just to breathe, to heal, to figure out who we are after all this." The words hit hard, but they were kinder than she expected. "Please, Daniel, don't leave completely." He nodded. "I won't." But deep down, she knew distance changes people, and nothing would ever be the same again. That night, she slept alone on her side of the bed, staring at the empty space beside her, wondering how to rebuild a life she had fractured with one desperate choice. 2 weeks passed. Daniel moved temporarily to his cousin's apartment, insisting it wasn't a breakup, just time apart. But the silence between them echoed louder each day. Amara tried everything to fix her life: therapy sessions, church counseling, endless applications for new jobs. But a suspension for ethical misconduct spread through the corporate world like wildfire. Doors closed before she even knocked. One bright Monday morning, her mother was finally discharged from the hospital. Amara carried her home, smiling and pretending everything was fine, but her mother see-through masks. As soon as they sat alone, her mother touched her cheek and asked softly, "What happened to your eyes, my child? Where is your light?" Amara broke again. She confessed everything, not the details, not the room or the hotel, but the truth of her desperation, fear, and mistake. Her mother held her tightly, stroking her hair. "Oh, Amara, you saved my life but lost pieces of your own. I never wanted that for you. It was my choice. I thought I was doing the right thing." Desperation twists right and wrong, but we learn that is the purpose of survival, not to stay perfect, but to grow wiser. Her mother's forgiveness softened the weight on her shoulders, but didn't erase everything. Meanwhile, the investigation at Lexar Holdings reached its breaking point. Mr. Lawson was summoned for questioning. For the first time, he looked nervous. The board had discovered he referenced, quote, private collaboration with multiple female staffers in past promotions. Patterns
Emerged. Behavioral flags were raised. In trying to protect himself, he had exposed himself. On Wednesday, Amara received an email requesting her presence at the final review meeting. She almost didn't go. But some battles must be faced. In the boardroom, 10 executives sat in a row. They asked calm but piercing questions. She told the truth, not for sympathy, not for pity, but because she was tired of hiding. She admitted she had made a terrible choice. She admitted she had been desperate. She explained her mother's illness, her financial pressure, her emotional collapse. She didn't defend it, she simply told it as it happened. The board listened. Then something unexpected happened. Another woman, a former employee, stepped into the room. She testified that Mr. Lawson had pressured her similarly years ago. Then another woman joined, and another. Patterns turned into evidence. Evidence turned into consequences. By the end of the meeting, Mr. Lawson was suspended pending legal review. He resigned the next morning. Amara wasn't reinstated, but the board cleared her of exploitation charges, stating, "You made a moral mistake, but you were not the predator in this situation." She left the office with her head slightly higher, not proud, not relieved, but no longer drowning. That evening, Daniel knocked on her door. She opened it slowly, heart racing, unsure if this was the moment he came to end everything. But he looked softer, calmer, changed. He said, "I heard what happened. I'm proud of you for telling the truth." Tears slipped down her face. "Daniel, I don't deserve you," he said honestly. "Maybe not. And maybe I wasn't perfect either. But love isn't about deserving. It's about choosing. And I'm choosing to try again. Slowly, carefully, honestly." She covered her mouth, shaking. He took her hand. "But Amara, you must understand this. Trust takes time to rebuild. We won't be what we were before. We'll be something new, something rebuilt." She nodded rapidly. "I'll do anything. I'll be honest. I'll never hide anything again." He pulled her into his arms. "For us to work, we must walk together. No secrets, no fear, no desperation alone." For the first time in months, she believed healing was possible. Not perfect, not instant, but possible. The story ends not with a wedding, or a fairy tale reconciliation, or instant forgiveness.
It ends with two imperfect humans choosing to rebuild something fragile, and the moral is carved into every moment of their journey. When desperation pushes you towards darkness, discipline pulls you back towards yourself. And when you betray your values for survival, the price is always higher than you expect. But redemption, slow, painful, honest redemption, is still possible if you face the truth.